Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Modern Working Musician. I'm your host, Yugen Peluso. My guest this week is Branndon Center. Branndon is a native of Nashville. He went to Belmont University for music. He's an insanely good drummer. That's actually how I met him. I taught his band camp like 10 or 11 years ago, which makes me feel really old. But it was arguably the easiest band camp I ever taught because Branndon was already better than I was. So, really great kid, really awesome musician. Branndon is a freelance drummer. He also plays in the metal band Yugen. You can hear me mispronounce the name by accident in the interview, but it is pronounced Yugen. He also works in the artist relations department for Meinl Cymbals, which is really cool. So we get to dive in on what his experience is like doing that and working with different artists for a cymbal company. And being a native of Nashville and having grown up around there, we get to kind of talk about how Nashville has changed over the years and his experience. All in all, it's a super fantastic guy, incredible musician, incredible drummer. And I'm just really glad I got to sit down and reconnect with him after like 10 or so years of after teaching his band camp, which was super rad. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into it with my good friend, Mr. Branndon Center. Everybody, welcome to another episode of The Modern Working Musician, where we are on a quest to find that there is no set career path in music. My guest this week is Branndon Center. I've known you for like 10 years, man?
Yeah, a little over, I guess.
Yeah, I taught your band camp in like 2012, 2011.
2011, I think.
Okay, yeah. I taught your band camp a long time ago, and it was the easiest band camp I ever taught because you were better than me. So I really just kind of hung out. I was like, oh, your flams are too high. That's literally all I know how to say. So how's it going, man?
It's good, man. Yeah, busy as always. You know, tail end of spring here, like right before summer.
Oh, yeah.
We were just talking about the move, so that's a lot of work right now. But yeah, good. I like, being busy is better than being bored. So
heck yeah, man. Now we usually go way back, and I want to, but we already know that you kind of have a background, or you and I know that you have a background in like formal music education.
Yeah.
But, like when did you start playing music though?
So my parents bought me my first kit when I was 4. It was like right before my 4th birthday. So I guess I just consider it kind of like when I turned 4 was when I like started, playing an actual instrument that you could call a drum. Mm-hmm. It's just like a little groove percussion kit. My dad built me a little like stage in the corner of my room.
Oh, that's cool, man.
So yeah, like that, kind of just like playing around for the better part of 2 years. And then my parents put me in lessons when I was like 5. Mm-hmm. I was kind of on and off with that for a while, but yeah, so I mean, as early as 4, but, things started to get more, like, serious and more direct when, I started doing it in school.
Yeah.
Had to, like, meet standards,
Yeah, totally. Now, I know what your kind of high school experience was like. I don't want to get into that, but what was your junior high band experience like?
So, where I went to school, a place called Good Pasture here in kind of north of the city, in a place called Madison. Mm-hmm. They start band technically in 6th grade, so I was like in beginning band in 6th grade. Uh-huh. But then they, if you're ready, you can go and be a part of the high school group when you're in 7th and 8th grade.
That's awesome.
So started playing with those ensembles like as early as 7th grade because there was just, the school was pretty small to begin with, and the more people that could get to be a part of the ensemble, the more beneficial it was going to be to the ensemble.
Yeah.
So, yeah, doing, like, marching band in 7th and 8th grade. I started actually marching in 8th grade, playing snare.
Okay.
So I guess by the time we had met, it was my 4th year on snare. And then my 4th and final year.
I got you.
So, yeah, it was just kind of a gradual incline for a while. But
cool. Comparatively, because you did indoor and stuff like that, too. Mm-hmm. What would you say were some of the benefits and maybe some of the drawbacks of being in a much smaller band program like Good Pasture?
I mean, our program definitely had its share of like trials and tribulations otherwise, but like I don't know, I always felt a sense of like, it was with any, you know, band community, I think there's always going to be like a sense of family, obviously.
Right.
But and you know, the smaller that is, the more intimate I think it can be, like for the body, the whole body, you know. But you know, there's disadvantages. You know, you don't get to compete on the level of the bigger bands. I mean, Good Pasture has started going to BOA in the last like 5 or 6 years. I mean, with COVID and everything, things have been so like, you know, jacked in terms of the scheduling thing.
Totally, yeah.
But when I was doing band there, we, you know, no chance of going to like a national level competition. It was always you were working towards Division One. That was the end of the year goal, and the goal was to win Division One. For the percussion section, it was to win drums at Division One, because we always had some pretty stiff competition as a band. So, but yeah, I mean, there's, you know, as a whole, I think I always kind of could see myself as being a part of a bigger group, and seeing how I would like that, but always sort of appreciating the smaller aspect of it. Cool. And yeah, just very good sense of closeness.
That's really cool.
But yeah, I mean,
yeah, I think that's awesome, because like I come from a larger band program, and we had some of that camaraderie, but there were also kids in like other sections that I found out. I went to high school with some kid the other day. I never knew they existed, and we were in band together, graduated together, and everything. I was like, oh man, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, Mumford, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge comparative to my program. Like, it's just, it seems so massive.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you having worked with some smaller bands in the past too, it's like, it is an underdog thing constantly, you know? And I think the hunger of some of those smaller bands is really cool, because like, you know, I worked with my friend David worked at Adamsville for years. Yeah, and they were a smaller band, but they were always just like,
that was our biggest rival at Division One.
It was always like they were the tiny band, they were fighting, and then like the bigger bands, it's like, instead of like we want to win, it's like we better not lose, and that's just such a different mentality than like being the underdog and fighting your way to the top. So,
totally, yeah.
So you moved on. You did Music City Mystique.
Yeah, right? 2015. That was my sophomore year of college. Yeah, that was a very cool experience. It was always something I wanted to do. I had been aware of Mystique for like, probably, I think 2004 was my first exposure. The Seven Sins show.
Yeah,
and
that like the iconic show.
Yeah,
that was the Mystique show for a long time.
The video, the performance, it's such a vibe. But I remember they had this website back in the day, and it was like a Flash based website. You'd open it up, and they'd have the big like animation, and I would just go there and like watch it. Just like, I just wanted to go to the website and watch their little intro, because it was like the closer from that show.
Oh yeah.
And they had these like awesome animations and like shots of the ensemble, and it just got me so hyped. But it seemed like so far away.
Right.
Know? Like, those people looked like 30-year-olds. Yeah. You know, like in my mind, it's like, oh yeah, those people are so much older than me. But yeah, I don't know. It was a goal that I wanted to achieve for a while, and getting into school, it was, you know, seemed relevant to my area of study, and it was good to do it for that 1 year. And then I did it, and it was a lot of work and a lot of time, and had to make decisions after that, which is why I did it for, you know, 1 year. But yeah, I mean, my experience was incredible.
Gotcha. And you did RAG, didn't you?
Yeah.
Right? I gotcha. Did you audition for the snare line, or did you?
I did. So that year I went in like with the intention of playing in the front ensemble.
Okay. Because like, you're a wicked snare drummer, so I was curious if that was like an active decision you made, or if it was.
No, yeah, it was. I had auditioned on snare before.
Okay.
But man, I don't know. I like, as you can see right now, I have terrible posture. My frame is just not really built for high level like snare. WGI snare work, I don't think. I kind of like at one point I was just like, let's stay put and play drums instead.
Yeah. You don't want to risk like permanent damage.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I already did enough to my back in high school, so that some people would look at me and scoff at that and say, you didn't march bass 5.
I mean, everybody I know who did the marching arts at some point has some kind of like back trouble and stuff. Like
totally.
I was Zeke David. I don't know if you know Zeke David. He did bottom bass at Phantom Regiment for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
And he is not a small, like he's like a very tall man.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm sure he's got like some issues from that. So,
yeah. I hate it. I mean, I'm sure the tech is getting better for that kind of thing.
Yeah. But I mean, there's only so much you can do when you're harnessing like a 50-pound instrument.
Yeah. So. It's not ergonomically designed.
Right. Now you went to Belmont, correct? Mm-hmm. Could you describe a little bit like, because I've had guests in the past that went to Belmont, but it's always been for different things like songwriting and stuff. And you went for, is it drum set performance? Is that what you went for?
Yeah. I mean, the way you say it is kind of complicated in the Belmont terms. It's commercial music, and my emphasis was actually music technology. Okay. But like those emphasis they're all kind of closely related.
Okay.
There's just kind of minor departures from each.
Okay.
They have like a music business. I don't know how they do it now, but when I was there, they had like a music business emphasis, tech emphasis, performance emphasis.
Gotcha.
But there was still plenty of performance involved. So I do kind of just consider it to be like it was a drum set study.
Gotcha.
With 2 years of classical study built in.
Okay, very cool.
So yeah.
Cool. Did you have to audition then?
Yeah. Yeah, and the audition is all encompassing. It's you go do like a marimba solo, you could do a timpani solo, do all the styles on drum set. But yeah, so.
Oh, that's very cool. Cool. So your focus was more along the tech side, but you did like do ensemble and private lessons and stuff.
Yeah, there was plenty of private lessons. Super fortunate to have worked with some awesome people there. Todd London, who is an amazing person, an amazing drum set player.
Very cool.
Dorico Watson, Chester Thompson, some other just like incredible staff there. And I also did one ensemble while I was there, all 8 semesters, rock ensemble.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, no, it's Jeff Rogers was the director at the time, and he was it was great. It was a very cool learning experience. You get the whole like chart reading experience, but it's also just very like in the room. Like it's a bunch of people figuring out how to play songs together.
Yeah.
And that was a really, really valuable experience for me.
I believe it, man. Yeah, especially like with gigging and stuff like that.
Totally.
Just having that, being able to do that in a learning space before you have to kind of go out and do it for money. So
yeah, I mean, for me, that was like some of the first times that I had like seriously played with other people. Like, I mean, I had, like projects in high school and stuff that were like, they would take projects that took their time and, you worked on them very casually, but like moving into playing with people like full time and with full intention is a lot different. And, you really start like, it's not always great to compare yourself to others, but I mean, there's sometimes that you need that like just level of competition where you need that person to step in and show you literally how something's done.
Right. And you need like that motivation really helps. My brother and I have talked about that a lot. It's like, I'm on a quest to be like the worst person in the room. Cause like, like if you're the best person in the room, you need to find a different room. So I'm on a quest to like be the worst person so I can learn more things, it kind of gives you that thirst for knowledge and to get better. So totally.
Exactly.
Could you give, this is kind of a big question, but like the Belmont experience, could you give maybe 1 to 3 pros and cons of your experience at Belmont? Like
1 to 3 of each?
Yeah. If you could.
We'll start with the pros because I certainly think of it as a more positive experience than a negative.
Totally. And it can be more than 3 too. So.
Sure. Yeah. The pros, definitely just like I always kind of saw myself staying here for school because I grew up here, and it was just like I got to live at home for 4 years, and it saved a lot of money.
That's
so
great.
That's definitely just like the pro of like I felt like I was home still, you know, and there was a bit of that trade-off. Like I didn't get the authentic college experience, you know, like living on campus. But at the same time, Belmont's not really a party school at all. Like
Right.
people who party at Belmont, it's just like house shows.
Right.
Which, you know, that's not unique or anything. It's like that at a lot of places. But so, yeah, I mean, I would also say just like, I mean, kind of in line with what I just said, it's here in Nashville. There's just so many like natural connections. Like, I remember I got to record Tambourine in RCA Studio B. Like,
Right.
And like, I think now it's just like a museum, but I mean, it could still like probably function as a studio. But it's like those kind of experiences, like recording in the A Room in Ocean Way is like, you couldn't go anywhere else. Maybe, well, there's other places you could go here in Nashville and do that, but like, there's just not many places in the world that would give you that experience.
Right,
you know?
right. I have a vague memory of I was playing in an Americana band, and our drummer was friends with the guy who's getting his master's at audio at Belmont. He was like, "Hey, you want to come do an EP real quick?" I'm like, "Sure." He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna." It was one of those. It was like, I think it was RCA Studio B or something like. It was one of those Belmont like famous old studios.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, Bob Dylan. Like this is the same mic Bob Dylan sang on." I'm like, "What?
Yeah.
Dude, come on!"
It's awesome. Yeah, and I mean, there's other like great facilities on campus, like just being able, like there's the REM studios in the basement. I forget the name of that building. But there's just like all these resources, and they're constantly adding new resources. I do wish, if there are some cons to think about. I don't think there's enough money for specifically the drum department. Like
Really?
there's not, they don't give, at least when I was there weren't many drum scholarships, and I think a lot of the money ends up going to new facilities, which is like ultimately improving the experience for everybody. Yeah. But I think there could be a little bit more allocation of you know, what makes this city great, and you know, the culture that makes Nashville great can mostly be attributed to music. So I think that, and it's not to say that they don't invest a bunch in the music stuff already. They just built a new performance center. But I do think there are some like better ways that they could sprinkle that in and make the drum specific experience a little more authentic.
Well, like when you think Belmont, like you think commercial music, you know?
Yeah.
I think I know one person who went there not for music. So, you know, it does seem counterintuitive to think that they wouldn't allocate like the bulk of their funding to that. Yeah.
And I mean, you know, I know a lot of people that give $50 million to the university are probably going to want their name on a building.
Yeah.
You know, so like that's.
I know I would, but I mean, when I get $50 million.
Yeah. The day is coming.
Oh, yeah. But no, I totally see where you're coming from. I feel like where a lot of people get confused about music school, where I was confused about going to school for music, is like, you're going to college to prepare yourself for a career, but it is often like you get out of your degree what you put into it. Would you say that was the same with your experience?
Yeah, 100%. There are that's a thing that bugs me when people are constantly dismissive of college and higher education, of, you know, the whole scam thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's validity to that for sure, but exactly what you just said, like, you're gonna make it what you make it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I'm very like proud to say that I kept in mind the whole time I was there. It was just like, if anything else, you know, you've got 4 years here. Don't waste any of the time. And I think back on those times, and like, you know, I wish they could have lasted longer. But yeah, I mean, I totally enjoyed it, and I grew so much as a musician. You know, like I said, that's when I did Mystique, that was during college, and I attribute that to a huge part of my music education and my development. And yeah,
Cool. Did it shape how you practice and stuff like that? Like
Totally.
Mystique and all that stuff?
Totally. I mean, there's definitely, I remember doing like exercises of like, here, write this like example practice regimen and try to do it for a week, see how you like it. And then like coming back to that and refining what you did initially and changing that up. And I mean, my practice routine now is honestly like, it's so like, I don't even know what it doesn't even compare to what I was doing in college because life is so different. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I do know a lot about how I know a lot more about how my brain works. Yeah. And I give a lot of that credit to college. That's really cool. And that experience.
That's cool. I really like the idea of, I'm going to have to try that, of like, write down a practice set routine, try it for a week, and then like go back and look at it and be like, what worked, what didn't work. Yeah. That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah. And it forced me to, I mean, time management was something I was always working on, but it really forced me because I had to work out driving, because I lived with my parents in Inglewood, where I grew up, which is about, I mean, as the crow flies, it's not that far from downtown, but with ever-growing traffic in the last 10 years, you know, the commute was pretty awful every day. And I remember a few semesters I had 8 a.m.s every day. So I would have to work out these times. It's like, is it worth it to go back home now? Yeah. Or, and you know, you're kind of forced to be productive, or, you know, to give yourself time to breathe and relax, go have a cinnamon roll in the library, you know, or, you know, go like shed it up in the practice room. Right. And that was something I always really enjoyed, is like planning out my schedule for the week and figuring out, okay, when can I go do this? I got to go make sure like 8 a.m. on Monday, I got to go when the fresh practice sheet sign up thing is there. I got to go sign on my timeout. And it forces you to be more intentional with your time. Totally. For sure.
That's really cool, man. To backtrack a little bit, we talk about on this podcast a lot is like, some people have that like aha moment of like, this is it. This is the thing I'm doing forever. Was there a time that you specifically remember that you had that? Or was it like 4th birthday, drums, this is it, this is the rest of my life?
Yeah, I mean, I can probably, I mean, the first memory that comes up when I think about like what I want to do forever, I mean, the ultimate goal forever has been to play drums around the world and to have those experiences. And that's still the goal for sure. But I remember like probably like playing to Bon Jovi records when I was like 7 in my room.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't listen to Bon Jovi as much these days, but I think about those times, and just I think about like hearing a live record and like hearing like the sound of a crowd come on, and then I'd play to like Rush live records, and just that experience of like being on stage and then the house lights go off and then like the crowd is like cheering. Like that's a very like, I don't know, it's a very deep like experience and like euphoria for me, I think. I love live performance. And so I think probably somewhere in there I decided, like ultimately at the end of my life, I want to say that I did that above anything else.
That's really cool, man. Yeah. Just, falling in love with that idea of like playing live and stuff like that. Yeah. That's very cool. I just got out of camp with like a guy who's like, I want to be a session drummer. And like, this is the polar opposites. That's really fun.
Yeah. I mean, that I've definitely like, there's been phases of it, you know, cause like I have wanted to do that. Like I've had a year or two where I'm like, all right, I could do that. I could learn how to play gigs on, not Nashville Broadway, but like New York Broadway, like doing like theater stuff, or doing the session thing, staying here for a while. Or honestly, these days, like the live thing is always going to be there, but I do like, I've been trying to kind of innovate, as I think a lot of drummers innovate the home recording side of it.
Yeah. That's where, that workshop we did yesterday, like the home studio thing has just kind of, I mean, it's so easy to do. Yeah. Like you need like a Focusrite and some mics, man.
Yeah. And just start building up plugins, like
right.
find the plugins on sale and figure out how to use them,
Right.
you know?
Dude, I have. So we were at that workshop with Aaron Sterling yesterday, and this guy's playing on everything that exists right now.
Yeah.
And like he demystified so much stuff. He was like, "Oh yeah, like this kick mic is like $80 on eBay." Like he's like, I'm thinking like this might cost more than your house. Like no, it's like a cheap, and like everybody uses a 57, just use a 57.
Right.
And then he was talking about he just got a new computer. And his eye lock is screwed up. He's like, everything I've tracked for the past 3 months is stock Logic plugins. It's like, what?
That makes me so happy because I am such a fan of so many of the stock Logic plugins.
Yeah, dude, yeah, like, and that, that's, he critiqued our mixes and stuff. And he was like, dude, it sounds good. Who cares? Like, you don't have to use. And then he was breaking down, he did like synth pads for some like super famous person. I was like, oh yeah, and my friend Mike does electronic music, so he's constantly like, oh, this plug-in here, like this synth, blah blah blah. I was like, oh yeah, what pad did you use? He's like, oh, it's a stock Logic pad. I was like, I didn't do anything to it. I just clicked pad and then did that. And I was like, this song is on the radio right now.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was like, he demystified so much for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all about what you can do with it. Like all the, most synths are just small little tweaks,
Yeah.
It's one small change can make a big difference.
Yeah. Oh man, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, going back to I think a lot of people find appeal in like the home session thing too, just because like, man, like being on the road, like it's just one of those things. The older you get, the idea of being gone a lot. Like I've been away from my kid like 48 hours, and it's like, oh, this sucks right now. So.
Yeah, no, I feel that totally. I mean, and that's something I've started to like think about more. Is like as I move further along, it's like, okay, when I'm like 40, am I going to be cool with just like getting up and going on a tour if that possibility comes up? It's like that's a balance that I feel like a lot of touring musicians have. I mean, you're going to get to it at some point.
Right. I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and he was talking about, and you've lived here a lot longer than he has. Like when we were in that workshop with Aaron Sterling yesterday, he said like LA was very different. You could pretty well jump into the session thing pretty quickly, and that's kind of what he did. Like he was still gigging, but it was always like a funnel towards session work. And one thing we were discussing last night was the idea of like in Nashville, there was the idea of like kind of paying your dues as far as like touring and stuff like that before you jump into the session thing. Is that something you have found to be true?
I've definitely heard of that being the case before. I know several great Nashville drummers who have like followed that kind of arc, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe there is something about that I don't know that I would eventually have to learn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, also like there is a lot of tradition here, and
Really?
you'll find a lot of folks who still follow those like pretty strict rules of like this is how it's been for a while. This is how we're going to keep it.
I got you.
But like who knows? I mean, I've like constantly feeling like I know Nashville less and less in a lot of ways. So, and things are, a lot of things are getting a big refresh. So that could still be the case, but I'm not totally sure.
I gotcha. Could you, in your opinion, because I've heard of a few people talk about like the traditional Nashville way of doing things. Could you like in your own words describe what you think that is?
Of the session thing,
or just like the traditional like, because I just hear a lot of talk of like the traditional like Nashville path of a musician, like a drummer in particular. I've always heard it being like, like go study, then go like hang out on Broadway until somebody loses a spot, and then you get on Broadway, and then you get on a tour, and then you do session work after that. That's kind of how it has been laid out to me before.
Sure.
But if there's if there's a different way, or if you know a little bit more.
I have played, I think, 2 Broadway gigs ever here. And one probably was more like Printer's Alley, which I guess was just kind of off Broadway at this point. But Yeah, I mean that is a hustle. That is
Really?
a side of that I respect, and it's and I mean these days that industry is booming, and the pairing it with alcohol is that gives it a big catalyst in a lot of ways, and with downtown so packed, like that side of it is finally getting its, I don't know, finally, I mean it's had its share, but like I know a lot of dudes who are doing that full time right now, and they're killing it.
Oh yeah.
So that's a side of it that's totally different from how I've kind of come up. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a way to do it.
So Broadway's basically its own thing, other than like touring and session work and stuff.
From my experience, at least, I've done a good amount of session work here, and it's not my full time thing, but I think it's possible to exist within that realm and not necessarily follow that arc.
Okay, that's very cool. I'm learning more and more because I like I was telling you before we started, like, man, I don't know anything about how. Yeah. I'm learning more and more about how the city of Nashville works. But like you said, it's changing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a very rapid pace too.
It's a free for all these days. I mean, we just had like Matt Garska move here, like
I saw that.
and like Naveen Koperweiss lives up in like north of town now. And
like I didn't know Aaron Sterling moved here 2 years ago.
Yeah,
'cause he was in LA forever. He's like, oh yeah, I moved in 2020. Like, what?
I mean, right before. I mean, prices are insane now, and they've gotten crazy higher in the last 6 months. But right before then, it still was like Nashville had a searchlight on, or not a searchlight, but like the big movie lights in the sky on for people to come. Like, it's very attractive in terms of a price standpoint, and there's tons to do here, and there's more and more. Like the city's just spreading out even more, but. Yeah, everybody. The drum. I don't know. Like it's at one point I felt like I had a pretty good grasp on, like the drummers that I was, that were in. I don't know, my scene. That sounds weird to say, but like I had like I kind of knew who everybody was that was like trying to do what I was doing, and then I don't know, that thing happened in 2020, and a lot of things ended in terms of a scene.
Right.
So, and at this point, like I was just saying, there's just so many people here now. I feel like I know less and less about the drum community because there's so many killers here now. And it's it's heating up for sure. Like there's just all these crazy players here. Yeah.
Do you find that, because there's a growing musical community, like sometimes that leads to more work in terms of like creative process or like new projects and things like that? Do you find like is it becoming more competitive, or is it becoming more collaborative in your opinion?
I think naturally it's going to be more competitive at first, if not for a while, but also at the same time I've seen it be really collaborative too, because there's like jams now, and I never really knew there to be like drum specific jams, not just
what? That sounds cool.
Like or like kind of like I don't know, drums. I would call them drum specific because I see them advertised a lot in like those circles of like drummers. You may have like other musicians that come in and fill in and step in, but like there's a place over in Inglewood Lounge. That hosts a jam, and like I see all these other people popping up. They'll do stuff at their house, and it's cool. I mean, there's like I've been to a few sheds, which is like something that like I didn't grow up doing that. Definitely was something new to me, but like that stuff is existing now, so that is like a cool like collaborative part of it for
That's
sure.
Very cool, awesome, man. So I want to backtrack a little bit to your, I guess we call it your day job. You're an A&R rep at Meinl, correct?
It's just kind of whatever at Meinl.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
You're the person that they ask to do things.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously people. There's people that kind of like have to have titles there. But I was brought on. I started working in the warehouse there in 2017, and then opportunity came to move into the artist relations office, it was like fall of 2017.
Gotcha.
And at that point, my job was really just to assist my boss, Chris, with there's just always been kind of a focus on content at Meinl, and about that's kind of how the product wants to be shown, and it's like in its natural environment. So there's just a lot of we produce a lot of content that way. So I don't know, I guess my title, if I had to give myself one now, it's like media and content manager, producer.
That's really cool.
I do a lot of videography and editing. Most of the performance stuff you'll see on YouTube is stuff that I've filmed and edited. So it's a lot of that, but it's also just being a part of the A&R team, and not A&R. I slipped up and say A&R a lot. It's really just AR. A&R would be artist and repertoire, but AR duties, and just, it's a lot of everything, like enter orders, but I'll also go pick an order, but it's and then I'll pack it and I'll ship it sometimes. But it is primarily video editing. We have a podcast that we do, and I edit that. And it's a little bit of everything.
Oh, yeah. That's really cool, man. So you get to meet a lot of these artists that you film and stuff like that, too?
Yeah. That's definitely the most intense part of it, and probably the part that has the most effect on, my personal life, just from an enrichment standpoint. It's just, those are very valuable experiences, getting to see and work with a lot of those dudes.
Very cool.
So.
Do you have I'm not going to ask you for a bad experience, but do you have a highlight experience of somebody that was just a gem to work with?
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, there's been so many. I don't know. The one that I think about the most, and I think is especially valuable to me, was Ralph Peterson Jr.
Really?
And because rest in peace. One of the greatest jazz drummers of all time, and was kind of that last, carrying some of the last words of the jazz greats, but we worked with him, I guess it was twice that I got to work with him. Yeah. And that I will remember that forever, for
Really?
Sure. But also every experience with an artist is cool, because
that's great. Everybody
who's coming in is awesome, So
yeah.
It's gonna be a fun, cool experience.
That's great. I distinctly remember you, Periphery did one.
That's
the one I remember you posting on Facebook, being like, "This was awesome."
Yeah. That was a great time. That was
because they did the whole band came in that time, didn't they?
Yeah, that was they were at the tail end of their tour, and I think they came down from St. Louis that night before, and we booked it at a place called the Tracking Room, which isn't open anymore. It's still there, but the property got bought, I think.
I think I did a thing with Mike Johnston there.
Oh, that was it was a little bit before I started working at Meinl.
I didn't do it. I attended it.
Yeah,
so.
the
lessons
the
or the practice.
Yeah.
He was just like, "Hey, show up." So I drove here from Memphis.
Yeah.
I told my wife, I was like, "I've got to go to this." And
yeah,
got to hang out with Mike Johnston for a day. It was
yeah,
rad.
Yeah. Mike is awesome. I've actually never met Mike, but yeah, Mike is great. That place though it's so sad that it's not open anymore, because was one of my favorite drum rooms in the city, and it was big, above anything else. There's not many tracking rooms that size here. Right. There's a few kind of outside of town, but that was probably, if you ask me about what's the biggest space you can go record drums in, that probably would have been it.
Yeah, I remember walking in and they shut the door, and I was like, "This is what a room is supposed to sound like."
Yeah, just the air, you hear the air
just
stop.
Yeah, and then you hear him talking, this man, Yeah, I never heard like live things sound like that before.
The majority of the Meinl product demos, like that, I don't know if you've ever seen any of those that JP Bouvet did them.
Yeah.
Like if you go like you can type in any Meinl Cymbal SKU number in YouTube, and there'll be a demo video for it, and it's probably JP Bouvet playing it, and that's in the tracking room.
Yeah, I'm such a huge fan of his. So like, so
that would be another one because we've worked with JP a lot. Like that's probably like as a result of him doing all those demos, he's come down. I've done probably like 4 separate sessions with him over the course of like as many years, and he's just amazing. He's a great person. Everything that comes out of his mouth is like thoughtful and like it's a great, every conversation is great.
Yeah, he was doing like a clinic tour sometime and was like super nice. I was trying to get them to come through UT Martin because I was still a student there at the time.
Was it the Common Thread tour?
No, it was something else he was doing. I think it was with his band, like Childish Japes.
Oh yeah,
I think it was with them or something. But they were trying to. But like they couldn't do it. It was like too far out of the way and stuff. But he was like super nice about it and everything. So that's really cool, man. If you could give me like a brief rundown, you don't have to get super into it, into the weeds on it. But like what are some of the things that go into producing content like that?
So I mean, I gotta say, like it's mostly just like the artist and what they're putting down, and like what you film is like you just making it stay out of the way, like making like something not look bad that gets over in the way of the artist playing. Aside from that, like great audio engineers that work on stuff and make it sound awesome. But it's yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
So you have an engineer that does all the audio for you.
Yeah, and it will change on occasion, but I don't do any of the audio mixing.
Gotcha.
I'm just video, and we occasionally will work with the VO team. It used to be like all the time we'd work with the VO team, but a lot of that's been kind of brought in because we do like 3 times as much content as we used to, so it's like kind of have to just be a little bit more productive with that. So yeah, I mean, I guess like ultimately it's just making everything look not bad and letting the artist do what they do, because like that truly is like it's a very like natural like demonstration of the product I keep saying product. I kind of hate that word, product. But that and the artist. So you just letting both of those things shine above anything else, I think, is the most important thing about making that content.
That's very cool. So you've been working for Meinl since what, 2017?
2017.
Very cool. If somebody like let's say like somebody who is about to go to college or is in college or something wants to get into this industry this field that you're in right now, do you have any suggestions that you would offer?
I really don't, because it was like a pretty perfect alignment of things at the time.
Oh yeah.
I had just gotten out of school. I needed a job. I had always kind of known Meinl was here. Meinl's been in the U.S. since 2003 or maybe it's 2002. I could be off on that. But they came to Nashville a little bit after that, and I didn't really know about the brand at all until high school, probably, because of Benny Greb was my first exposure to Meinl.
Yeah.
At like knowingly that it was Meinl specifically. So like I kind of sort of grew up with it and knew that it was sort of there, but I never like truly knew that the whole North American operation of Meinl is based out of Nashville.
Wow.
So kind of started putting that together at some point in college, I think, and was always just like, well, if what I'm doing for school isn't going to immediately work out, what's kind of a good backup plan that I can just make some money.
Right.
And Meinl seemed like a pretty cool option. I didn't mind moving boxes a few times a week.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like, I don't know. I think just finding, if you're trying to do what I'm still trying to do, which is like make music for a living, I think it's important to like have at least like if you're, have a side hustle, but try to enjoy your side hustle as much as you can. I mean, like, work is work. And we're all surviving under work, but yeah, I don't know. Just make sure that you're like not hating everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like
that seems like a really kind of just like ambiguous thing to say, but like that's truly kind of what I've like kept in mind. Like, it is a relevant job. Like, I have a relevant job to my interests, but it's not what I ultimately want to do.
Right.
So I guess, yeah, if you're trying to get into that industry though, like, just meet people. Cause like I didn't plan on being like doing this at Meinl. So
yeah,
it is really all about who you know and who you talk to and who
Right.
you're nice to.
Now, when you got hired, was it just one of those like, there's a job opening, fill out an application, or did you know somebody that worked there already?
Yeah, it was like an Indeed posting, warehouse associate, like.
Oh, okay.
And then, yeah. So at one point, it's the way the building is laid out is like we have 2 offices. Well, there's more now because there's more units and it's in a big space park.
Gotcha.
But kind of administrative offices on one end, and then our little artist office is down on the other end, and big gigantic warehouse in between the 2.
Gotcha.
And so occasionally we'll have to walk through the warehouse. So I kind of got to know my boss Chris that way, and I don't know if you've listened to the Meinl podcast. He's the host of the Meinl podcast.
Oh, okay.
That's my boss Chris.
Cool. We will link to the Meinl podcast in the show notes.
Yeah, check out the Meinl podcast. We have 50 episodes of it now.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
dude.
that's a cool milestone to reach.
Cool.
They're all great episodes too.
You think Chris would want to do an episode of this show?
Yeah. I mean, he's an awesome guy. I would love to talk to him. I've learned so much from him, and he's a great person and a great boss. I'm very thankful to have him. Shout out Chris Brewer.
Chris, come be on the show. Put this into the universe. No.
But yeah, I mean, truly, I just like saying hey. Like I would say, hey, how you doing? Sometimes it's small talk, but sometimes you find like a valuable conversation with someone who might give you your next great opportunity.
Totally.
So.
Yeah. That's one thing I've noticed a lot about just the people I've talked to in this town is like in some smaller music scenes, you don't want to come across as I'm trying to think of the word, like you're using people,
Sure.
So like a lot of those conversations that really need to be had as far as networking and moving your career forward, like don't get, we don't have those conversations, and I feel like that's one of the, I would say that is like some of the cons of the Memphis music scene right now, because everybody's trying to build it, which is great. But we also don't want to have those difficult conversations about like moving our career forward or like money and gigs and stuff like that. And that's one thing I really enjoy about coming here is like, that's just part of the conversation. Everybody knows it is, like
right.
It's like, like your conversations with Chris, like you are both friends with each other, but like you both actively know that you're trying to advance your careers at the same time. And
right.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like nobody has it. There's no like taboo about moving your career forward in the industry in this city, which is something I really enjoy.
Yeah, totally. That's absolutely the vibe.
Yeah. So yeah, that's and it's it's interesting that it's really not. It's not. That's not the way it works in some music scenes like Memphis, and stuff like that. Like we don't actively have those conversations quite a bit. So.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. So, no, it's really cool. And like I said, you're the second person I've talked to about that. It's like you're making connections. Like everybody knows they're here to make connections and move forward. So.
Yeah, exactly. I have so many friends that I've met here and I know as like my hardcore networkers. There's typically, if I need to like source something, those are the first people I think of. Like, who do you know? Who do you prefer out of all of these people? Or,
right.
Yeah, it truly is. Like, it sounds so cliche, and it's like sometimes you just got to roll your eyes when you hear it, but like it's truly valuable info.
Very cool. That's awesome, man. So I want to transition a little bit. You have a new band, Yugen, correct?
Yugen.
Yugen, dang it.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
We'll cut that out.
It's like, yeah. I mean, I probably at one point before I joined the band had said it the same way. So
now, having been your social media friend for a number of years, like I feel like this might be one of the projects you've promoted the most. Is that correct?
That could be right for sure. I think so. I guess since being in college, I've had kind of two main squeezes as far as like, and I kind of put them on two different levels, but consider them on the same level of like, okay, this is stuff I get paid for. This is stuff I don't get paid for.
Yeah.
But they're equally as like important to one another.
Gotcha.
And the hope is that one day maybe that will take off.
Yeah.
And then you'll just get to do what you love to do and make money from it.
Totally.
Fingers crossed. But yeah, so before Yugen was a band called Edge of Reality. That was kind of my first experience in college / post-college of working very collaboratively together with a close group of people. It kind of started as a trio with me and my friends Joey and Jesse in college, and then that kind of morphed into an eventual 5-piece, and that was honestly like the thing for like 5 years of my life. But it sort of like things moved in different directions. People moved away, and that project kind of just became everybody had their other interests, and you know, it would sometimes things just work out that way.
Yeah.
But so I don't know, I was about like a year, maybe not even a year, honestly, after Edge kind of dissolved. The opportunity came to fill in on drums with Yugen, which we had actually in Edge had played with a number of times, probably like 2 or 3 times.
Cool.
In and out of Nashville. And I knew about them, knew the dudes. They're all great. You know, like it's at the time in Edge, it was like kind of a new frontier as far as prog in Nashville. Like, it you know, there was like one-off cases of it, but like there was not. I mean, there was never really a scene, and it was, if there was any scene, it was constantly like the changeover rate was like very constant. Here's the new prog band. Here's the new prog band, and then they would die out, and it was a constant up and down. But we knew each other. Edge and Yugen had played shows, so I was aware of those dudes, and like I their drummer had I think was like making a career change at the time, and they had asked me to just come play some shows, fill in. So I played like 2 or 3 shows at the tail end of 2019 with them, and then with everything that happened in 2020, like things just became so fluid, and it was like, why don't you just be a part of the band, and then we're gonna write an EP or finish an EP basically. Okay. So I like recorded drums, like wrote and recorded drums for that EP that came out last year, and we've just been working on stuff, kind of getting back to playing shows ever since. Yeah, it's good. It's cool. It's fun music. The next stuff's gonna be real fun, I think.
Cool. So you said prog. Are there any other words you would, for the people who haven't heard it yet, how would you describe it?
Sorry, yeah, that's an important distinction I should make. Edge was more of a mostly prog, lean towards prog metal. Yugen is pretty more kind of straight metal. Gotcha. These days, at least. The stuff we're writing now probably is going to take a little departure from that, but it is I consider it kind of the first metal band I've played in. Oh yeah. So that's been like a cool new flex for sure. Like, really? That like I've had to learn a bunch of things and refine a bunch of things. Really? Because things become so like I can't think about double kick anymore. Like I just have to make it happen. You know, I have to make it happen. And I have to make it powerful, like all the time.
Right.
Because that's metal.
Yeah.
So that's been like a little different. Like there's just little things like that, but I enjoy it so much.
I gotcha. So you never really gravitated towards metal until here recently?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't consider myself a metal head because it's like not all I listen to, but I do love metal. And I mean, this a Between the Buried and Me tattoo. So like I love metal. It's a huge part of my current and more recent developments, but you know, definitely have been a fan of metal a large part of my life.
Very cool. What does the metal scene look like around here currently?
Man, there's some really cool bands. Played with a few. I think Yautja is how you pronounce them.
Okay.
Yautja. I might be butchering that, but that band's dope. Super heavy. I'm constantly like seeing new bands come across Instagram too. It's like, wow, that's here.
Now, are there good venues for metal and stuff out here now?
I mean, it's I don't know what you would consider good for metal. It's just like loud or.
Well, like we have, you know, like in Memphis, we've got like 2 or 3 spots that like you know, there's plenty of other things that happen over there, but like, you know, you've got like Bill Street, which is kind of like Broadway.
Sure, yeah.
And then like, you know, Midtown is where a lot of like the more indie shows and stuff happen. There's like 2 or 3 venues that are like the venues you go to for heavy music. Do you guys have those around here?
Yeah, I mean, like the one that I've probably played the most and a lot of like working like passion project musicians in Nashville would say is the End, which is right across from Exit In.
Okay.
That's like it's been around for a long time. I mean, Exit In is more legendary than the End, but they've always kind of had, at least in my mind, kind of a sister connection. I think they are like there's ownership ties between the two, but like there's like, I mean, now a place called Dark Matter, which has existed in separate spots for about 7 or 8 years. I think it was over on like the west side for a while, and then it was on one part of Dickerson Road. Now it's on another part of Dickerson Road, but it's like probably one of the, like, if you mention DIY venues in Nashville, that's the one.
Cool.
So like those places for sure. I mean, there used to be more like kind of house opportunities for that. I love house metal shows. They're like so just inherently metal.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, like where it existed, like that's probably where. Also, Murfreesboro. I don't know how much the scene exists nowadays, but Murfreesboro has had some really cool like metal history, like Tony Danza tap dance extravaganza. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
They're from Murfreesboro.
I did not know that.
And, you know, like Plea for Purging played here in Nashville for a while. But there's, you know, Nashville's not historically that big of a metal place. But there's plenty of metal people here.
Yeah, totally.
And there's more every day.
Yeah, like Matt Garska's here now. So.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. We were talking too, you and I kind of talked about it on Instagram, like the Atlanta metal scene is like crazy good now.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like Seder. Yeah. Yeah. I went down there and saw Animals as Leaders back in April.
Really?
Yeah, man. And was just like hearing about like, being around people before the show, I was like hearing about all of this like Atlanta metal stuff happening. Yeah. It's like, it's crazy. I mean,
like Seder's down there. I actually did. Do you know who Corey Bautista is?
Yeah.
He engineered those records.
Yeah.
And like through him, I met a guy named Gabriel Levi, who's been on the podcast.
Cool.
And just absolutely ripping guitar player. So
that's amazing, dude. We played in Edge, I think played a show with Seder. That was 2018 or 19.
Oh, yeah?
Used to be a place called Hollywood Hideout, like somewhere down in like Antioch, I think.
Really?
And Seder came up and we played a show with them. It was just like, it's a house venue. But like, I remember thinking that night, like, they played right after us. And we played a good set. It was fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I like moved all my stuff, and like Brody came up and they played, and it was just like I could feel the kick drum here in the other room.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like he was playing with like a 20-inch kick, and I was like, all right, how long is it until these dudes are like not here? Not playing house shows in Nashville.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Brody might be the best drum set player I've ever like met in person. Like that guy is insanely good.
He's awesome.
Yeah. Every time I think I've like fanboyed over him like every episode of this podcast because he's just so dang good.
New Meinl artist as well.
Yeah, no, that was really cool. We played with them. It was a weird show. Fat Bites. I don't know if you know where it is.
Oh yeah, over in Donaldson.
Yeah, it was like it's a sandwich shop, and it was like
in a bar.
Yeah, so it was like I was playing drums in my friend's indie punk band, which they're doing really well. They're on tour right now. We were covering like the Strokes and stuff, but it was this like 80s like almost like Pantera band, then us, and then Seder closed the show. It was like the weirdest bill I've ever played.
Variety.
But yeah, like we hit it off though. Like I remember hanging out with Michael and the guy who plays guitar and screams for them, and then Brody for like the rest of the gig. Man, we stayed there for a long time. So they're just super nice guys too.
Super chill, super just great at what they do. Like, and like you see them and it's like like there's no reason that they shouldn't eventually get exactly what they're working for. Because it's all like you see it all happening and all working for them. Yeah. At least from like an audience standpoint. Yeah.
That comes back to like a resonating theme that has been from the people I've talked to and everything is like, like marketing, networking, all those things are great, but like there is no substitute for just being really good at your instrument. Like that, like if you're good, people are going to find you.
Yeah. And that's why I'm always like thinking of ways to like improve the live show with Yugen and like improve opportunities for like potential like content that we could record live, because like that is truly where like that's the natural element. Like that's what you're selling, you know, unless your goal is to just use shows as like a social thing and then make music and sell it online, which is that's a way to do it. It's a little more rare, I would say, but like your live product that's who you are.
Right. It makes me wonder if one could be, because a lot of people now who I talk to, like with Spotify, and like their pay rates are just abysmal, stuff like that. So a lot of people use Spotify as like just like a business card. That's what it is.
Sure.
More than anything. So it makes me wonder if there are people out there who use their live show as like a business card to their streaming and stuff like that. But
yeah, I mean, probably. I would be surprised if not. I still really like. I mean, they just got bought, but Bandcamp, it's still like. It's my favorite way to sell music, and it's my favorite way to present music to someone for them to hear, not on a streaming service, because I do still think there's some value to having an iTunes library that you own.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of an afterthought these days with streaming, but like there's still something about ownership,
Yeah, totally. And like with the whole NFT thing happening now. So like, I mean, I'm
so lost.
Yeah, it's beyond my comprehension. But Kings of Leon like released their album as an NFT or something like that. So it makes me wonder if that's going to be the next thing, like digital ownership of like digital scarcity of music. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's getting scary for sure.
Yeah, I still can't wrap my brain around it though. So.
Yeah, every time I try, it's like nah.
Yeah. My friend was like, so there's like these things, but like. There's only so many of them. Like, well, I can still see it though.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it's a thing. Like, what? I don't understand. But anyway.
My favorite like memes are like, I'll just screenshot it.
Yeah.
Like,
there's one. It was like it was like you would. It was the old thing. It was like you wouldn't. You wouldn't copy a VHS tape or something like that. Yeah. And it's like you wouldn't screenshot it NFT. Yeah. Like. Oh, it's so silly.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe one day it'll make sense.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, I digress. Going back, so you have a lot of, like, the primary part of your job is, like, AV stuff and video editing for Meinl. Have you used any of those skills that you've acquired for your other projects?
Yeah, totally. Actually, yeah, Yugen released a video for our most recent single called Pan back in, I guess it was like March that we put that out. But I've done, like, since high school, I took some video production classes in high school. I've always been interested in, like, I haven't done nearly as much of it as I used to, but filmmaking was like something I used to be really interested in. It's like
Really?
as a kid, like 7th and 8th grader, just like editing with iMovie, you know. And then like I always could see myself being a part of that video production class up until then, and then I finally did it, and it was awesome. And then I like never. I went to school for music, and I like never did it again
Wow.
until I guess. I had dabbled in it when I needed to because I had that skill. Like I learned Adobe Premiere in high school, and so I just like always had that skill. If I needed to use it, I could go use Adobe Premiere.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to start using Adobe Premiere until I started editing at Meinl. So
Really?
that was like a huge, like probably 8-year gap between doing video production, or maybe not that long. It's more like 6-7 years. Of doing video production in high school to actually doing it professionally. But
Wow.
I'm very thankful I have that knowledge because it's what I do every day, all day, pretty much.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. Yeah, I'm glad it paid off in the long run.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to pick your brain because my camera sucks, and I don't know why. So, anyway. Well, like,
it happens.
it keeps saying, like, my memory card's full when it's not, and I don't know why. So, I don't know. That's like a 300 gig SD card.
That should be enough.
Yeah, it's like, oh, add a memory. Like, you're lying
You're
to me.
lying to me.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll pick your brain about it later. Dude, this has been great. I do have, this is kind of like the signature question of the podcast. You can answer it any way you want to. You can be music related, not music related, life related, or not answered. Do you have a favorite failure?
Oh, man. Favorite failure. You might need to cut some of this out.
Yeah, I can cut
Yeah,
I can cut all the dead air we need.
Man, I do probably have. I don't know if I have a favorite. There are probably a few. I mean, I think of a few times like in college, where I literally failed some like classical percussion performance stuff. Like it was like actually the first time where I had like felt like I wasn't going to be able to like accomplish a goal that was related to this.
Yeah.
You know, being drums and yeah, that was a pretty jarring time where it's like, okay, like you tried it and that did not work out for you.
Yeah.
What's next? And ultimately, like, I don't think I got as much out of the classical side of that kind of like study in college as I should have. I think I got enough for what I'm doing now. But that's something that I do kind of regret, is like I didn't buckle down enough on that. But I do, like, that is something that I've used like in a lot of things that I do and I work on, is like, are you doing this enough to like actually care about? Are you caring about this enough to get what it's worth, you know?
Yeah.
And I try to apply that in a lot of ways. So that's like one of the times where I was like, it literally, like, I just like broke down in tears in my car one day. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
wow. But excuse me. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of them happened in college. I feel like a large part of this conversation has been can be attributed to things that happened in college for me. But
I think the bulk of my failures are college related too. So
I think that's where you need to fail the most,
yeah,
for sure.
You at least have a little safety net. So
Yeah.
it's very cool. Man, that was I think that's very well put. And care about this enough to get the most out of it. I think that was the phrase. Yeah, that's gonna resonate with me for a while.
Yeah,
like,
cool.
Do I care about this enough to get the most out of it? Because yeah, I mean, I don't know how many people. I mean, I'm not shy about this, but I just don't bring it up a whole lot. Like, I was not a good college student. Like, I did not practice. Like, I did not learn how to practice till like my junior year. You know, like I remember specifically like my freshman year, like getting called out in an audition for wind ensemble because it was so bad. Like, and so I was like, I thought I was prepared, went in, just tanked.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is like, it was a blind audition, and the professor was like, this is one of the worst auditions I have ever heard. I was
That's
like, oh no.
man.
So yeah.
That's brutal. Sometimes you need it though.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, I finally got my act together like towards the later years of my college life and stuff like that. So yeah, no, I 100% know what you mean. There are parts of my college career that I wish I could go back and invest more time into, you know, and just learn how to manage my time better. That's the main thing. Is I was just a horrible time manager.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big thing to work on. I think I always kind of like put a little bit of hope in maybe one day being able to go back and fine tuning some things that I didn't get to do before. But
so masters is possible.
Possible. It's way far off though. Lots of stuff to do first.
Yeah, that brings me to a really good question. Do you have any? You know, we could talk like 1 to 5 years out goals for the future.
Well, I'm moving to Greenbrier now, which is north of town, so I'm trying to at least stay there for the foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. No reason for me to leave here yet. I've been here 27 years, and it's not time to leave. Damn. So, I'll be here most likely unless something comes along. But probably just continuing to do the thing. I can't necessarily see myself anywhere in particular.
Gotcha.
And I think that's like a thing that I've been innovating a little bit more in the last year or two, is just kind of drawing back that, like, if I envision it as like car lights on a dark road, like how bright are your lights, you know, like how far, what's your visibility, like
right.
Maybe dimming those lights a little bit can kind of help focus a few more things in your life and help you commit a little more to the now. So yeah, I don't know. 5 years seems like an eternity, but it's gonna be so short, you know. So it is kind of that. It's sort of a paradox, but like, I don't know. Probably here. I'm probably gonna be here. Probably doing something, hopefully drum related.
Yeah. I like the idea of dimming your lights so you can focus on some things. Because that's one thing I've really struggled with here lately. Is like, you know, I just left teaching after 8 years. It's like,
wow.
You know, I'm gonna be 40 in like 9 years. Like, oh god, you know, like it's gonna be, you know, my kid's gonna graduate high school one day, kind of thing. So, no, I really appreciate that. I think that's very well put, and I was like, as soon as you said that, I was like, I'm thinking, like, I was already stewing on some things. That's great. Well, Branndon, this has been awesome, dude. Thank you so much for doing this. Where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram like once a day, twice a day. But you can find me on there if you want to kind of loosely keep up with me. That's probably the place I post the most, like, effectively for, like, you know, if I'm playing a show, I'll probably throw up a story or whatever, or, you know, something significant happens, I might make a post about it. But
awesome.
There, and like Twitter is where I goof around. Those are my two, and Reddit. That's my only 3 places on the internet that I am now.
I gotcha.
If there's one more thing I can recommend, it's delete Facebook.
Dude, that's another thing. We're talking about Nashville versus Memphis. Memphis still runs on Facebook, and like,
I hate that for you,
dude. I'm telling you, like 90-ish% of the gigs that I've booked in Memphis have been over Facebook.
I mean, that's why I hold it off on. I still have one for work, but I don't like accept requests on it because I just use it for work.
Yeah, I looked you up to see. I was just trying to get some background stuff before this interview today. I was like, your last post was like 3 years ago. I was like, well, doesn't use Facebook.
Yeah, no, that's I mainly use that to get around to like do stuff for work. But I got rid of my personal one like a little over a year ago. I mean, for real, like it cleared a large part of my brain.
Dude,
I feel like.
I could support that, man. I've often thought about just deleting it and seeing what I could do without it. So, like I said, man, a lot of the gigs I book right now are just through Facebook.
Yeah,
as much as
I totally get that.
So, and then Yugen is on Instagram. Yugen Nashville, is correct?
Yes, Yugen Nashville. Yugen Do It on Twitter.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's we're not really on anything. We're on Facebook, but it's like I for a while now, I feel like IG has been like the one. So like,
Okay.
we use IG for most stuff.
Awesome. Do you have a YouTube channel and stuff too?
Yes. Just type in Yugen, like music, that we will probably come up. Or like Yugen Pan would be like the most recent. That's our probably our biggest publish on YouTube is that most recent video. So.
Awesome. Cool. And we'll link to all that in the show notes so people can check it out and stuff.
Sweet.
Man. Dude, it's good to see you, man.
Good
After
to see
like
you.
10 years. So.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
It's been forever. Thanks for having me, though. This has been an honor.
Dude, it was great to learn from you today. Like, you put, like, yeah, like I said, you had some sage wisdom, man. Like, you had a couple, like, you said some things
Well,
in there. Like,
I had some ravioli that had sage on it the other night.
There it is.
That's
there
why.
It is. Well, cool, man. Well, thank you so much again, dude. Everybody, this has been another episode of The Modern Working Musician with Branndon Center, and we'll see you next time. Thank you all so much for listening. This has been another episode of The Modern Working Musician. If you are interested in learning more about the podcast, you can visit keeganpaluso.com/modernworkingmusician. Likewise, if you're interested in advertising with The Modern Working Musician, you can find me at keeganpaluso.com or keeganpalusomusic@gmail.com. You can find us on all platforms at Modern Working Musician. Thank you guys so much for listening, and have a great day.